Welcome to day 2 of the Texas Torque Ranch podcast, also known as Shane Bedingfield. I'm on Facebook, Twitter, at Bobby Sorts on Twitter, and Shane Bedingfield 2015 on Twitter. And I'm on WordPress, a blog. I run a spirituality / wrestling blog / whatever else I want it to be about on WordPress. I'm on LinkedIn, and I'm on Google+. So I'm basically am the internet. Yeah, thank you. Today's topic is going to be the WWE press release, Debauchery, or however you want to say it, and UFC, the fixes in UFC and all the MMA stuff. Because on Facebook we get a little bit of play off that every time I mention that, and also I'm going to hint on a possible podcast that's probably going to wind up turning into a shoot over DDP yoga. So I know, spoiler alert, but on to the WWE press releases. There has been every time somebody goes to the restroom, goes on a vacation, gets laid, there's a press release. And on the worst part of it is, if I'm new personnel coming to the WWE, which is absolutely going to kill the business. This is partial shoot at WWE NXT is that every time somebody new gets signed there, they do a press release, and some of these guys don't even need to be going to NXT. They're experienced. Put them on the main roster, drop them in as heels, and that way you got a new storyline. But now, the whole story's being killed. It's killing them on their main storylines. It's going to kill them really bad. When they start running out of stuff to do, let me remind you, this is the same WWE creative team that told Brodus Clay and some others that they had nothing for them, and they released them a year or 2 years ago. And I mean, it's crazy. It's insanity. What makes you think that you bring another set of guys in that they're going to have something for them in 6 months? I went out on my way on Facebook and said that these 80% of these people they're signing right now are going to be flashes in the pan. Here today, gone tomorrow. You're going to come in, serve your purpose, and leave. So, I mean, WWE for a long time has tarnished the wrestling business. Ever since Vince McMahon went out and broke kayfabe. I know that's an exclusive. That's an exclusive. You heard it first from me. And I mean, it's ever since he broke kayfabe, he thinks now that it's just okay, the fans are stupid, and we're going to basically keep on playing to their stupidity, and we're not going to, all the mystic and all the magic of the business is gone. We're just going to go out there and make be a grade B film company and go out there and put on movies every Monday and Thursday night and on the pay-per-views. That's what he's basically saying there, buddy. Okay, y'all know it's entertainment. Y'all know it's entertainment because we told you it's entertainment. But every time we could click it back to a wrestling deal, where it's an actual wrestling show again and had that suspension of disbelief, we're not going to do it because we're an entertainment company. And trust me, whatever he's been running during Monday nights, I think he ran a 3-2 a couple times, and some 3-6s. It could be 4-0s and 4-5s if he would go back to the old way of business. And now everybody says this is Triple H's company, but Scott Hall went out of his way on a kayfabe commentaries shoot interview, and said that Vince McMahon is managing this company every time he has a chance, and it's driving Triple H nuts. So no, it's still Vince McMahon's company. Don't lie to yourself. It's still Vince's show. He may be 73 and he may have dementia, but he's still there trying to run the show. So, I mean, it's like, that ain't no shoot on Vince. I mean, it's the way, I mean, I'm sure if Bill Watson was in the same position, he would be doing things the same way. So, I mean, it's just, the press releases are killing the business. You know, I hinted to a guy who worked for the WWE one time named Q-Ball Carmichael. I said, if I was going to drop a heel faction in anywhere, and this includes the Indies in the South, I would pick out 4 guys, tell them, don't mention it that you're coming anywhere on Facebook, Twitter, or any of your social media accounts, MySpace, or any of that. We're going to drop you in during the main event, and I'm going to have you show up to the arena 10 minutes till time for you to actually walk out and do it. And the only guy that's going to really know about it is the ref, and right before the big jump goes down and the heel faction beats the crap out of everybody, the ref's going to let the baby faces know, or whoever they're jumping, preferably the top baby faces, that something's coming, be ready. Then as the jump's going down, the ref tells them, you know, basically die out. You know, and a deal like that, the top baby faces have to give a little bit of fight, but eventually lose the deal, because that's the only way it's going to get over. That way you got a new heel faction there. And on top of that, you got a storyline right there where you can go off of the next time around. Eventually, well, not necessarily the next time around. Eventually, you're going to work into a big old, preferably 8-man match where the baby faces go over on a big show. And there's so many angles you can work off that. But that is the correct old school / right way of doing business on a deal like that. And I mean, it's whenever you do when the WWE does a press release, what happens is it takes away from them even trying to do anything like that. I think one of the Beer Money Incorporated guys they signed from TNA, he shouldn't have been announced coming in. That was an instant heel. That gimmick's a heel gimmick. Let him do his thing. Drop him in on the main roster. Let him do what they do best. Those Beer Money guys, even though it's a redneckish kind of gimmick, but a redneckish kind of gimmick, jumping somebody up north in New York City will get over like a rover. I'm telling you. It's a given. But no, what did they do? They dropped a press release whenever he first showed up. It killed anything that they could do with him. So now you're basically at the same deal, you know, and you know, here's news for you. Despite all that's got said about, you know, the Ronda Rousey fight being a fix and all that by Taz and everybody else, but guess what? The UFC is still winning the pay-per-view war. And I don't know if WWE has woke up yet, but they're not in a Monday night war anymore. They're in a pay-per-view war. And it's like which was sort of funny, they let CM Punk take him because that was his, you know, the message they gave out to Dana White on that CM Punk deal is fine, take him. We don't want him anymore. Sort of message, because he was being such a pain in the butt. And, you know, if they would have played that card right, and whenever he left, now there's the time to drop a press release saying, you know, he's basically the biggest piece of crap. He didn't want to play along. He didn't want to play along with the guys booking the stuff. The booking committee could not get along with him. And, have him. Job him out. That's the message they should have sent on a press release whenever CM Punk left. But no, I know that was... You heard it right here. That was from me. I'm probably the only one that's ever said that. Out of all the people in the wrestling business doing the podcast, that was the message they should have sent with the CM Punk deal. And, that brings me to the point, we're real close to halfway. We're 11 minutes into the show. And at this point, I'd like to thank Google Play for providing this app, because it gives me a voice to basically talk out about my views on the wrestling business and on stuff. And basically, the bottom line is this. I know the Titan Towers are huge. I picked that WWE personnel personally on Twitter, running Twitter polls asking, now this ain't me saying this is the fans who are smart enough, and these are the real smart marks that are answering these kind of polls, is this really Vince McMahon's Twitter handle, or is this a PR person? And the Titan Towers are huge. There's no damn way that Vince McMahon is going to take time out to run his own Twitter account. I know this for a fact in the country music business. Whenever I was running a PR/internet promotion for a country singer named Warren Brilliant back in 2010 and 11 with some NASCAR and ARCA stuff. And her mom would intentionally get on there to check her Twitter account. So you cannot tell me in Stamford, Connecticut, the same thing is not going down. So I know that was a monumental thing. A lot of people probably don't ever talk about it. Thank you. Thank you for the pop there. But, it's just the way it is. And basically, when it comes down to it, you have a company that is too big for their own good. And they are losing the pay-per-view battle like I don't even know which war to compare it to. I would compare it to like a 5A school in Texas, like South Lake Carroll, playing a 6-man team like Skellytown outside of the hometown. The real hometown is Zach Thomas. And okay, we're going to take a time out here and before we go into our next subject. And on the deal of football, for all you Carolina Panther fans, the end has came, and it's coming. You might as well start packing up your stuff because Seattle's getting ready to run over you like no tomorrow. It's playoff time. That week schedule's getting ready to come up, and it's over. So this is the weekend that Carolina football, Panther football ends. The great thing about the Carolina Panthers, though, is you can always mix it in with wrestling because of Kevin Green and the stuff he did in WCW. And, Ric Flair reside, and I reside in the Carolinas, and everybody knows I'm an ex-29-year-old walk-on from West Texas A&M. That's how I got discovered in the Florida business. And I did a little bit of MMA. And speaking of the MMA, let's go up to the UFC fixes on the fight. The other night during Raw, which I didn't watch because I got too busy putting on my own show on social media, because I am my own show. That's right, you heard it here. I called him out. I call them out. I can put on a bigger show on social media than sometimes they can on WWE Raw. And I got onto this whole deal. The UFC's fixed, and then I posted videos on that. Then I got on the whole NASCAR's fixed, because I got a lot of people from NASCAR on my Facebook page. And went on that fix. Then, because I got Lee Steinberg on my page, which is the guy that the movie Jerry Maguire is about. He's on my page, and I got Jarius McIntyre, which used to play with Cam Newton at Clemson, on my page. And I got a couple of NFL guys. And yeah, I got Dory Funk and Marty Funk on my page, and some of the boys from back home. And lots of others. I went on this big old tear that everything's fixed. I went from the NFL, and then right in the middle of the NCAA championship game, Alabama versus Clemson, I went on the whole deal that the NCAA's fixed. Posted a video backing up that. Then I went to Dancing with the Stars is fixed. The Voice is fixed. American Idol's fixed. So basically, the big moral of that story is, if it's on TV, it's a work. WWE is not the first one to do that. I started noticing that back with NASCAR in 2009 when I moved to North Carolina. They were doing what I call ghost cautions to get the reaction out of the crowd they wanted at the end of the race. And everybody talks about the Dale Jr. feel-good moment after Dale Sr. lost and all that, which, if that wasn't a work and the fix wasn't in, I don't know what it is, because that was definitely a work. The timing was impeccable on that. NASCAR ought to be that may have been better. The NASCAR may have done a better version. This is sort of a paradox in a way. So, did a better version of the Montreal screw job, but instead of being a screw job, it actually came out into the biggest babyface story ever with Dale Jr. whenever he won the Daytona 500. So, okay, on to the UFC fight fixing. I know Taz has killed a dead horse with this, and he's right in a lot of ways. There's no getting around that. And I'm going to give Taz utmost respect, because he has more time in the business than I have, and that's just the way how this business is. You give respect to your elders in the business, and there is no way that Ronda Rousey deal wasn't fixed. A friend of mine that helped me break in from Amarillo, who resides out in Las Vegas now, Jeff the Giant Warrior / Colossus Bearden, me and him were talking on the phone, and he did some MMA down in South Africa. I did some MMA in Farmington, New Mexico, and there's just no way that, those fights that Ronda Rousey did leading up to there, because the UFC needed something to talk about, because let's be honest, half of the welterweights that are from Hispanic origin look like MS-13 guys. In other words, you do not want them being the face of your company. So they needed something, and they needed her to keep the UFC going over with people. So she won all those fights, and then she said she was going to take a break, and she went down. But she isn't the only fighter, where there's been questions, The Conor McGregor deal, and they needed the same thing out of him. They needed a hype man. And, to be honest with you, everybody knows that first CM Punk fight is a work. He's fighting nobody. He's literally fighting nobody. And plus, it doesn't help that half the guys are saying that he's an amateur that's on the roster at the UFC. So, you got everybody knows it's a work. All the boys in the wrestling business have always said it's a work. Whenever I was wrestling for DPA in Hickory, North Carolina, they ran a MMA event side by side with us one weekend. Let me rephrase that. Friday night we ran in the same building. The next night they ran. But it was the wrestling promoter doing the show. So the guy that I wrestle a lot, rumor has it, because I didn't talk to Chad that much at all whenever I was wrestling him, because I still, as much as I could, we stayed true to the old business. And basically, he flat out told the promoter, Marcellus, we know what's going down. You can't lie to us. It's a work that night. I didn't even stick around for it because that's one of my deals. I don't mark out freaking anybody. So I didn't even, whenever UWF was running Amarillo, Texas, I never even went to those events because at the time I was living in Clarendon, Texas. I was getting ready to walk on. I was doing the junior college thing. And I never went. In fact, I don't think I ever seen a UWF fight until after I fought my MMA fight in New Mexico. And a guy gave me a bunch of tapes of the old UWF events that Steve Nelson ran. So, that brings me to the next part of this discussion. Steve Nelson, a wrestling coach from Amarillo, Texas, Tascosa. He's now running the Japanese steakhouse over by Westgate Mall, which if you are ever in Amarillo, I highly recommend you going there. And this is going for all the WWE workers that go through Amarillo and do shows. The Sakura Japanese steakhouse is one of the best eating places there is in that town, and I highly recommend you going there. So, with that being said, Steve Nelson fought one of the Gracies in Amarillo, Texas. As far as I know, he's one of the first ones to fight one of the Gracies, even though my strength coach at West Texas A&M, his little brother was involved in that movie called Choke, which was one of the first original MMA movies ever made, where it involved Hickson Gracie, which is the oldest of the I believe he's the oldest of the Gracies. And so, sorry there, Coach Hayes, I had to give you a plug, but his little brother, Hollywood Hayes, was in that tournament on that movie. And with that being said, the big rumor about Coach Nelson and the Hoy and Gracie fight was because it involved so much money, they filled that place I don't think I ever seen a place in Amarillo get filled up since Bill Watts ran that place back in the day. Whenever I was at some live wrestling events. And what's so crazy about it was Dennis Stamp, the guy from Beyond the Mat, who said, if I ain't there, book me or I ain't going to show, basically, which is it's an Amarillo boy thing anyway. We don't show up for nothing. But he used to be sitting out there in the crowd up by the judges during this fight, during all the fights, and especially that fight, because I remember seeing him on the tape. And he was there. Anyway, whenever Coach Nelson and Hoy and Gracie fought, because it involved so much money, they thought, let's put it this way, the fight went for a long time on the ground, and it was the old pancreatic style, no gloves but open-handed, and it went on forever. And basically, it happened. It eventually ended with Gracie winning, but everybody said, man, he could have done him in any time. And I know. Exclusive. I was exclusive. You heard it here first. That Hoyen could have ended that fight fast, but because it was a full house and involved so much money, and they were probably charging $20 to get in, which, believe it or not, MMA can get by with for some reason that indie pro wrestling can't. And he basically, it came across very much so like a work. And some of the boys, my corner man, we were out on town in Amarillo, Texas. We just left Brewster's Pub, which is downtown on 6th Street. And he said, Michael Gaines pretty much said, which is a friend of Heath Herring's, the Texas Crazy Horse, which I've hung out with the Texas Crazy Horse a little. I'm not saying we were pals, but I hung out with him. And, he pretty much said that fight was a work. He's like, dude, that fight was a work. And that's one of the, that was one of the boys that was around UWF quite a bit at the time. And so if that, basically what I'm getting at, if that was a work on a bigger stage, like the UFC, the WEC was, there is no way they're not doing a shoot work scenario on those fights. There's no way. Because if you didn't do a work shoot, it goes back to the boxing deal. Whenever you get a certain guy that's got a little bit of marketability or girl, you got to give them the push. And that's what it basically come down to. And, that's the bottom line. It was a work. And so you can take that for what it is. You can cuss me out. You can send me dirty email. Threaten to kill me. Do whatever you want. But everybody knows in the wrestling business, because you can't pull. See, charismatic pastors have a hard time with people like us from the wrestling business, because we know how to incite a crowd, so it's hard to get over with us. So we're gonna, boys from the wrestling business been around a little bit. We'll call it what it is. And it's so basically we're coming to the end of the show. We're in the final minutes, and next time around, I'm gonna probably most likely going to talk about DDP yoga being a false yoga. I do practice meditation. I started practicing meditation out of need because I was MMA. I was training a kid on the ground at a park last year, and I needed a way to calm down because I'm 16 months sober now, and I had to have a way to calm down after that. And I found it to be very, very helpful. Then with that, I started studying Kriya Yoga, which is it was founded over in the Middle Eastern countries, mostly India. And I started listening to Sanguru a lot over deep breathing techniques and the spirituality side of it, and then tying that into asanas, which is postures. And it's really been a cool experience. I've enjoyed the path I'm on, and I'd like to thank you guys very much for listening in. The next couple is going to probably be hot because the whole Natty and Charlotte thing, which is a drop ball, and we got Brock to talk about too. So thank you for tuning in today, and you guys have a great day.